Hello. My short is called One Hitta Quitta, and it deals with a young boy who is addicted to watching violent videos online. And you see how him watching those videos basically makes him become more violent. It also deals with a failing school system who doesn't make him accountable for his actions, his mother who is always working and she's really never there for him. So he feels like invincible, and he also feels like he can do whatever it is that he wants to do. And you just see the ripple effect of all of those things. But it really is commenting on violent media and our desire to watch it and what that's doing to our culture. And we shot it all on iPhones, which was interesting. 8 iPhones to be exact. And that was really fun, so yeah, that's it.
What inspired this story? Because there is a lot, like you said, there's violence that children can, be exposed to. Obviously, the technology out there and just the web media. I mean, what inspired the story for you?
I guess it was like 2 years ago. There was this like string of violent attacks, these knockouts, where people were like running up on like people like at the store or walking down the street and literally like knocking them out and filming them. Some of them were being filmed, some not, but it was a game. And it was just this whole idea of like, okay, if you can hit somebody and knock them out with one punch, or if not. So I was looking at that, and I'm like really just trying to figure out like, why would somebody think that was a game, or why would somebody think that was funny? So then I started like looking at this website, and I will say the website. It's like World Star Hip Hop, and on this website there are like tons of videos of people fighting at school, of people fighting in the streets. Again, these knockouts, and these have like 2 million views, 3 million views, 4 million views. People are commenting, telling people, yeah, you a beast, so you knocked that person out, and it's like we're glorifying this type of violence. And in my mind, I'm like, what in the world is causing this? Like, why do we think that this kind of violence is okay? And then my wife, she teaches in like high school sometimes. And one of the things she was telling me is that like when teachers try to discipline, or when administrators sometimes try to discipline, they're shut down. You can't do anything to the kids. You can't really like, a lot of times you're told you have to pass the kids. And so in many ways, all of those things together, in my mind, I'm like, wait a minute. So here we are, we have a school system that's not making our kids accountable. We have parents that are not making the kids accountable. Oh, so that's why they think that it's okay to do these things, because they know that there are no consequences for those actions. And so all of that together inspired the film. That was a long-winded answer to that question, I think.
I'm curious, working with the iPhone, since most of these videos are shot on an iPhone by other kids, choosing to do that yourself, working with DDP, how did you guys decide, let's do this for real, let's do this on iPhone?
Well, first it was a bunch of trading these videos. I mean, I downloaded thousands of videos, and I'm watching these videos, I'm watching how they're shot, I'm watching like the point of views that they're shot from, what are people looking at, how they're sort of not only shooting the fight, but then they're turning the camera on themselves. So we were studying like the way they were shooting that, and then we decided, all right, we want to shoot this in that same style. Because when the audience watches this, I want, one, for you to be in the point of view of this young boy who's always watching these videos, and two, I want you to feel like you're there. Especially there's this sort of huge classroom thing that happens where I basically emptied the room and let the students shoot. I didn't even shoot it. And I let the students shoot it. And that's where I really want you to feel like you're there, you're in the classroom, you're seeing this thing as it happened through his point of view, and the phone is his point of view. And so what we decided to do was, one, we had 2 main cameras, which was like HITTA and another camera operator. And then we had all of these other points of view where we just like, I gave phones to these kids, or I allowed them to bring their own phones, and I just let them shoot. And it was a challenge because, we had just shot Dawn, and we shot it on the Alexa, and it's grand, and using like Panavision lenses, and this looks like a real film, and then you like shooting on this. But it was fun, and I think it's appropriate for the film, because I've seen other things shot on the iPhone, and in my opinion, I've not seen the phone really being used as a part of the story. And in the film, the phone is literally the guy. The phone is the young man. The phone are the other students. And so the phone really acts as a conduit for us to really get into their world. Did that answer the question?
follow up on the iPhone question, what apps did you use? What apps did you feel like really worked best for you to shoot on the iPhone?
We use an app called Filmic Pro. I think you can download it for like $5 from the Apple Store, but it allows you to manually control everything. You can control focus, you can set aperture, and you can lock those settings in. Whereas, you know, when you're shooting with your phone, it's always like doing something where it's changing and it's doing automatic settings. But this allows you to set things up and then lock it in, and then it doesn't change. So it allows you a little more control. Of course, you're not getting as much control as if you were shooting with an Alexa, but at least you can control some of what's happening in the camera.
How'd you deal with sound, and then what did you ultimately edit with?
We actually did double system. So we shot all our sound with an H4n. We put some microphones on the actual iPhones. And then we, of course, lobbed our main guys and did boom stuff. And I edited in Final Cut X, which was interesting because I didn't know Final Cut X. I've been editing on Final Cut like for 10 years, and then X just changed totally. The interface is totally different. So it was a learning curve. So it took me a while to really edit the piece because I was trying to figure out the program.
Why did you decide to change to Final Cut X?
I'm a professor, and it's sometimes not in my control. They upgraded my computer, and so I was kind of forced to use Final Cut X. But it was good because my students are using it, and so now I know it a little bit. To be honest with you, I don't know it as well. I'm still learning it, but yeah, I'll leave it at that.
To your professor, your professor at UTA Film,
Yeah.
and I saw that Sammy Zanata, former film student, graduate, worked musically with you.
Yeah.
What stood out to you about her music, and how did you feel about getting to work with a former student?
Look, I love Sammy. It was interesting. Last summer, like 3 weeks before we shot, there was I think visual effects class, and they were actually shooting a video for Sammy where they had her on a green screen and they were gonna like key in backgrounds or whatever. And that was the first time that I'd ever heard Sammy sing, and I didn't even know Sammy was a singer or songwriter. So anyway, I asked Sammy could she write this song for the film. And it was interesting because at first she was just like, I don't know if I can write a song for this film because it's just not up my alley. Sammy usually writes like love songs. And I told Sammy, I said, I really want this film to be a call to action. I mean, the song to be a call to action, the film as well, but I think the song in itself will help bring a little bit of light to the end of the film because it doesn't end on a very happy note. But the song will at least, one, bring light to it, but also it'll drive home the point that what I'm really saying with the film is that we have to do something in order to stop this from happening. And it was cool working with her. I sent her away, and a month later she came back with this song called Youth Going Bad, which is on iTunes now, right? So buy it. But yeah, I mean, it's a great song, and it adds a lot to the film. And I actually just shot her music video in February in San Antonio. So it was exciting working with her. Yeah.
So then, do you feel it is more important for a child to have better parental guidance and discipline in the public education system than, that's even more important than preventing them from watching violence, because they're probably not watching it.
Look, we all are exposed to violence, and the truth of the matter is that if your parents have, in my opinion, given you morals and values, and in many ways have given you vision for your future, because a lot of times when I look at these videos, one of the first things that I say is that anybody who believes that they need to be Facebook famous by knocking somebody else out, they really have no vision for their future. They can't see past this phone and the likes that they get and the quick fame that they get at school, and that's because nobody has really poured anything into them. So in my opinion, if your parents are pouring things into you, even when you're coming up against this violence and looking at it, you understand that this is not you, and you understand that you don't have to participate in said violence. But when that's all that you have, then that's what you'll do. And not only that, there's been numerous videos you can find. I mean, there was a case in Dallas where this guy was skipping school, and the teacher was escorting him out, and the teacher kind of tapped him on the back, and the guy turned around and slammed the teacher's head against a locker. And immediately there were people who said, well, a teacher should never touch a student in that way, and maybe you should never tap the student, and he should have just walked the student out. And it's like, when I was little, we were paddled. You know what I mean? And what I'm saying is that we cannot even discipline kids anymore because we'll get in trouble for that. And so if their parents aren't doing the work, and then Here you have a high school teacher or a middle school teacher trying to give them any kind of guidance and discipline. They're not receptive to that, and they believe that they can do whatever they want to when they want to, and a lot of it falls back on us. Yes, sir.
Since we're talking about human nature, have you found that there's a certain kind of violence that we're just automatically attracted to? I mean, kind of a two-part question. Because we've had this argument in the political arena for a long time that violent movies, violent video games lead to people being violent. Okay, but we're talking about internet violence and just ridiculous videos on YouTube. Is there a kind of violence that we're just attracted to automatically?
I mean, I don't know if there's a type of violence that we're attracted to, but I will say this: what I've seen online are people who are sort of egged on by other people. So meaning, like, if I get into an argument with you and if I'm gonna walk away from that argument, if he says no you can't walk away, then he says no you can't walk away, now we have this crowd thing going on.
So now you're talking about peer pressure?
Yeah, and now I feel like I have to fight and I have to like get into this altercation with someone because one, I don't want to look weak, but then also because now it's like, all right, there's phones on me and now I can be famous and now I can do this or that, you know what I mean? And prime example, there's a girl in a McDonald's like 2 weeks ago. She was like savagely beaten by like 4 girls. Savagely beaten. It's all on tape. 25 people around filming it. She's being kicked in the face. She's being dragged underneath tables, the whole nine. Nobody stops this. They interview her grandmother, New York Post. Grandmother says she can't sleep, she's having these headaches, blah, blah, blah. The girl gets online and is like, no, that's not true. I can sleep just fine. They didn't do anything to me. They just made me famous. They made me Facebook famous. Now I have all these likes and I have all these comments. I'm Facebook famous now. They didn't do anything to me. They made me a better person, right? That's a problem, because now, again, whether I'm the person dishing out the blows or I'm getting the blows, as long as there are people online egging me on and liking what I'm, doing online, then I think it's okay. Now, to answer the other part of your question, right? I think this. We have all been exposed to violence, right? Violence has been in the media forever. But it goes back to what I said before. There was actually somebody there to say, this is fake, this is real. That's a movie, that's a video game, this is real life. But now what we're seeing real fights, real people. It's not just like something that's staged by a director. These are real fights. And not only that, the more likes that these fights get, now people think that it's okay to be violent because now I have somebody telling me that it's cool. So it's kind of like an addiction. I hit you once.
Saying that we'll throw away our moral compass for celebrity.
Of course. Yeah, we do it all the time, you know what I mean? All the time. And I think, the fact that now you can be famous again from, I can go down the list, but for doing nothing. There's a lot of people on TV now who I don't think do anything except they just are, and somebody follows them around with a camera and they're famous. So of course I can create my own little fame by beating somebody up.
You have a great film program at UT Arlington. You work with Bart Weiss, who's Video Fest, and does a lot of progressive and experimental video. Could you talk about how the iPhone and the iPad has really empowered students from, it used to be if you wanted to be a filmmaker, you needed to have money to rent cameras and stuff. Now, you just go down to AT&T or Verizon or whatnot and pick up an iPhone. And you talk about, how these technologies are empowering students who could never have reached, this type of level of creativity because of money or because of not being supported.
I mean, it's not just the iPhone, obviously. I mean, now all cameras are getting much cheaper, and they're shooting out a great image. And I think that has opened up more opportunities for people who, always had talent, who always had stories to tell, yet there was this financial barrier. So now they can tell their stories. And I think that's great, because there's so many voices that historically we were not able to hear because the gatekeepers or the powers that be shut those voices down, because they were the ones who controlled whether or not those people had access to cameras, had access to film, had access to crew and all of these things. But now again, with an iPhone, a 7D, a 5D, a Blackmagic, these sort of cameras that you can get for a couple of $1,000s, now anybody is able to shoot a film, and I think it's great. Flip side of that, I think, you know, a lot of times there are people who probably shouldn't be shooting movies now. Who are, you know what I mean? And anyway, that's a whole nother
Quick
thing.
follow-up. What really makes the UTA film program special? Because, you know, I've been covering film festivals for a long time here. It seems like you guys produce some really great film students. I mean, with Bart and your other colleagues, what is your formula? What really works?
I think the first thing that works is that we really, really push story. You know, it's not about like cool effects. It's not about shoot 'em up movies. It's not about, you know, zombies and aliens and all these things. It's really, truly about like telling a meaningful story. And I spend lots of time, and Bart as well, we spend lots of time with our students making sure that those scripts are ready to go before they go out and they shoot. Now, of course, you'll always get some people who, you know, they want to tell this particular kind of story, and you can't force anybody to do anything. But we're asking those deep questions. We're asking, why are you telling the story? What's your intention with the story? What do you want the audience to walk away with? What kind of impact do you think this story is going to have on the viewer? And I think by asking those questions, you get a deeper level of story on the page. And if you get that deeper level of story on the page, when they actually make the film, that comes across.
Thank you. That's all we have time for.
Okay.